it's me again, everybody. Sorry about that. Now, Alyssa said that she, I never came into her thing. So, we'll try it again. And again, tell us where you're watching from. And also, are you keeping a schedule? Because this is something Alyssa and I have been talking a lot about. Okay, Alyssa, I'm going to hit this. So I'm looking for you. Again, sorry about this, everybody. We will figure this out. Or like get the timing of it right, at least. But Elizabeth is saying that I'm not popping up. Again, I'm sorry, I'm Gretchen Rubin. I am the author of Better Than Before, The Happiness Project, Outer Order, Inner Calm. And I'm the co-host of the Happier with Gretchen Rubin podcast. And these are the coping with COVID-19 conversations that Elizabeth and I are doing every day. But Elizabeth is saying that sort of, this isn't, oh, dang it, this is happening again. Hang on. See, something happens where the little thing disappears. I wonder if I should just do it solo today. Elizabeth, hit me up if you can. And I think if I, oh my gosh, I'm sorry, guys. There we go. Yay! Here she is. Right? Yeah, it says waiting for Liz Kraft. Connecting.
Hi.
Hey.
I was having some sort of internet problem. I don't know, or something. I don't know.
Okay, because it just wasn't showing up that I had started.
Yes, and then luckily, then I realized I could just hit your profile and go onto it. Normally, it just pops up.
Yeah.
And I just join, but it didn't do that. So,
well, you know,
here I am.
What I found, I've been saying to a lot of people lately, and I bet other people have been saying the same thing, is I'm like, technology is great when it works.
Yes.
And we just all have to be patient, because sometimes it's like, you're like, I'm supposed to be using Chrome instead of Firefox, or,
yes.
You know, like my USB is not reading, and blah, blah, blah. So it's like, okay, we all just have to stay patient and work the kinks out and
yes.
then roll with it. So,
yes.
Elizabeth, how's everything where you are today?
It's good. Sorry, excuse me. Where the news here is, as many of our listeners have heard me talk about, I often go to Fryman Canyon. I hike at Fryman Canyon. Well, it's now closed.
Okay.
Because too many people were using the trail and it wasn't safe. So that's a big change, obviously. So, but we're in our little nuclear family, we're doing well.
Good.
How about you?
Everything's good here. We also have had people congregating in the park, so there's been a lot of discussion about that. But where I am and where I go, it's very possible to be very far away from other people. And so I just make sure that I steer my path so that I'm very far from other people. Somebody emailed me saying, oh, you really shouldn't be going outside because of like the new orders. And I'm like, no, really, like I've been very carefully following this. And it is okay to go outside if you're by yourself and you make sure that you have that 6 feet distance from other people.
Yeah.
And so sometimes in some places like Fryman Canyon, some places it's pretty narrow. It's not really, you don't have just like an open expanse. And so I can understand why in an abundance of caution, they're like, let's just make sure that this doesn't become an issue. Yeah. So I was asking people, Elizabeth, whether they're keeping a schedule. I, of course, desperately want to keep a like moment by moment schedule. And my family is not so excited about that. Have you guys? Well, Jack's back at school, so maybe that's giving you a little schedule.
So yeah, he has not had his spring break yet. So his class has a Zoom check-in every weekday at 9 a.m. So that's really helpful because at least we've got that at 9 a.m. I haven't really been keeping a schedule aside from that, and then our Insta Live. Yeah. But I think I'm going to try to start keeping more of a schedule of some sort. Or maybe just make a list every day of things I want to accomplish. I'm not sure. But I have been doing a lot of, like, I took a nap from 8 p.m. to 11 p.m. the other night. Not a great idea. I took a nap the other day from like 4 to 6. So anyway, somebody says they're time blocking.
Okay.
Which Sarah and I talked about on Happier in Hollywood. which is probably a good idea. That would make a lot of sense in this situation.
Right. See, it looks like a lot of people are trying to have some kind of routine, whether it's a morning routine or they're trying to stick to a routine. My older daughter just went back to school today, and so she is doing that. My younger one, she still has another week of spring break, so we're just like letting her kind of do her thing. But the big news with my older daughter is she turned 21. Oh,
yes.
Here's the made for her.
Can you wait? Maybe if you turn it upside down, will it look right side up?
No, I think I'd have to show it in a mirror.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh,
there's a way to do that.
Happy birthday, Eliza.
Yeah, I said to her, it's not the greatest way to spend your 21st birthday, but for the rest of your life, when people are like, what did you do on your 21st birthday? You'll be like, I remember exactly what I was doing on my 21st birthday. So, there you have it.
And Gretch, we were going to tell people about these drive-by birthdays.
Yes.
That Eliza in New York, this is kind of hard.
No, she can't do that in New York. But a lot of people in other parts of the country, and maybe put a thumbs up if you've heard of this or seen this or participated in one, for things like graduations and birthdays or anniversaries or something. People who are in areas where people can drive are like, they'll be like, there's a birthday party at 11 a.m. and people will go and they'll drive and they'll honk or they'll sing or they'll do something. So they're maintaining social distance, but they're somehow trying to acknowledge a big moment in somebody's life. And I think something like that would have been really nice for Eliza. Because they've seen pictures of cars, like 6 cars lined up in front of someone's house. Everyone's in their little pod safely. Yes.
But all singing happy birthday. And then the person's like out on the front porch. So it's really sweet.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it gives those people something to do.
Yes, exactly. Right. No, it makes the time move. Again, with the schedule, it's good to have things where you feel like today was different from other days and I got this done. And so today feels like I got something done today. Now, speaking of getting something done, let's check in on Friday's challenge. Was it the census? Like the days are, I need to start writing this down. Was it the census?
Oh, yes. And
was it Friday?
What? I asked Adam, did our census come? And he said, yeah. And that's as far as I got.
Okay, well,
so
a friend of mine texted me earlier and she's like, a happy day, I answered the census. So I was like, okay, that's good. So put a thumbs up if you answered the census. And if you haven't received your thing yet, then obviously you can't do it. But like Elizabeth, maybe you need to fish it out of the pile.
Yes.
Elizabeth, knowing your household, I know it could be pretty deep in there.
Yes. So we're getting a lot of thumbs up from people who did the census, Gretchen.
This is good.
Gold
this is a
star.
civic duty
Gold
that we
star.
can all do right now. Yay. Check mark. Ooh, that's fancy.
Yes.
Like check mark. Yeah,
yes.
Good. This is good because this is really important for our country, obviously. And so, like, I think all the census workers are very concerned. So we can do our part by answering quickly, and they'll be like, oh, why is there this strange pocket of people who are being so responsive? So you'll be like, oh, okay. And then the challenge for today, Alyssa, you have a challenge you want to throw out for everybody. It's not the most high-minded challenge, but I think it's an enjoyable challenge.
Yes. So everyone might have, I don't know if everyone can notice that I have wet hair today. I'm not looking my best. But there's a reason for my wet hair, Gretch. The reason is because the challenge of the day is to use one of those hair products you have that you bought or someone gave you or you got in like a sample and you haven't gotten rid of it because you mean to try it, but the stakes always seem too high. Like you're doing your hair to go to, out to dinner and you don't want to risk it going completely awry with a new product. Right. Use one of those products today and just see if it works once and for all.
The stakes are so low.
The stakes are very low right now. So I mentioned this to Mom, and she said she's been doing this.
This is good.
Yes.
Well, it's also a way of like bringing, we're always talking about like using up what you have, and there's a lot of things where you like, kind of hesitate. I myself have not like let my hair air dry without blow drying it for like 35 years. So I keep thinking I should just do that. But now that we have Instagram Live, I want my hair to look good, so I'll do it on Friday or Saturday.
Okay.
and then I'll find out. So I'm like making a note to myself to just let it air dry. Maybe I didn't need to be doing that all this time.
Maybe. We got some listeners saying they're going to try
Oh,
this. Someone says they have at least 10 hair products that they need to
that's
try.
good. There you go. There you go. Oh, my daughter, 12. Yes, has been doing a lot of hair experimenting. Yes, this is good.
So as soon as I am done, Gretchen, with our Insta Live, I'm going to go use a product and dry my hair, and we'll see how it looks.
Okay, so that's why you didn't dry your hair yet, because you're waiting to like implement the challenge.
That's right.
Okay, that's right.
That's right.
Yeah. Okay, so that's a good one. So try something that you haven't used yet. And speaking, so we're going to ask about that tomorrow, and then also an accountability check-in, folks. Have you done what you're supposed to do, whatever your accountability thing is? We're doing this a little bit earlier today, Alyssa, so I don't know if you've written your pages yet.
Not yet. I wrote some over the weekend. I felt like I built some momentum.
Good, yes.
So I feel like I'm gonna have a good day today. I made a list of things I want to do today, and one of them is write 5 pages today.
Well, 5 pages, that's a lot.
Well, it's not. I mean, it's totally more than doable. It's just I haven't been concentrating. So what I've realized is my concentration and focus has just been so shot the last week. But I do feel like now that it's sort of a new normal almost, I'm feeling like just less scattered.
Well, here's something that I've noticed, and I would love to know if other people are noticing this too. Give a thumbs up if you're watching the news a lot less. I feel like a lot of people have sort of like, Jamie did this. He's like, I'm not going to look at the news until noon. And so in the morning he said to me, is there anything I need to know? And I'm like, there's nothing you need to know until noon. I mean, like, you know, it can wait. And I feel like a lot of people have sort of like, they had cranked the dial all the way up, and now they're like cranking it back. So how many people feel like they're pulling away from it? Because I think it is disruptive, and it is hard to get readjusted back into kind of your own everyday responsibilities and your everyday concerns, because it just feels like, well, this is so huge, like, why am I even fussing with this? But like these are the things that we can control in our own lives, and these are the things that we can manage in our own way. It looks like a lot of people are tamping down on the news. Morning and evening. I think a lot of people are doing that, like having kind of a slot where they check it in.
The thing I was saying to Sarah, my writing partner and co-host of Happier in Hollywood, is I feel like the news has less of a grip on me. Like I felt like it was just like hands around my neck forcing me to watch it. And now I just feel like less compelled to watch every second.
Well, and also the thing for you and for me both, we're in a state of like, stay home. Don't go outside if you're not an essential worker, unless you're doing solitary exercise or walking your dog. Don't go out. And so it's sort of like, unless you're like going to the grocery store to buy food. And so it's kind of like what can I do? What are the rules? That's all sort of like, it's done. Like we know what the rules are, and it's probably going to stay there for a while. And it's, you know, and so I think, for me too, I feel like I don't have to keep abreast the way that I did. Because for a while it felt like it was changing. Obviously the gravity of the situation is changing. And of course, everything that we say, we don't want to diminish or trivialize what people are going through, especially people like healthcare workers and essential workers of all kinds. Like we absolutely want to acknowledge it. But at the same time, give us ways of dealing with it, in our own lives.
Because for those of us, someone said they were, I saw a friend of mine said, I just think every day I wake up not sick is a good day. And for those of us who aren't essential workers who can stay home, I mean, the best case scenario is we're just bored for a few weeks. That's what we're going for.
Yes. That's the best case scenario. Yes, you should be so lucky. But speaking of like, what can we do in this time? It seems like one of the things that you and I were talking about is how sometimes people are reluctant to ask for help. It just feels like they don't want to put people out. They don't want to create extra work for people. They don't want to have people, they feel reluctant. And so one of the things is like, how do we help other people by doing deeds, and then also help keep like vulnerable people from going outside where they could get exposed, or, you know, bring down
Yeah.
density and all this. And it seemed like there was a great suggestion that somebody who was saying how her brother, while she had cancer, I believe the situation was, her brother would say, hey, I'm at Target right now, and I'm coming to your house tonight. What do you want for me to get you? Because I'm right here. And it seems like if you're saying to somebody, I'm going to the grocery store anyway, is there anything I can get for you? And you reach out and you sort of say, it's no extra, I'm not making an extra trip for you. I would be happy to make an extra trip for you, but maybe you don't want to ask me to do that. If I say to you, well, I'm going to the drugstore anyway because we need Tylenol, somebody might be like, oh, well, you know what? Actually, we really need soap or whatever, or, you know, toilet paper. Yeah, good luck with that. Or whatever it is, because you don't want to people have this reluctance to ask people to do things, even when really they should.
Yes. Yeah, somebody says letting people help you is a way of giving too, and that is very true.
That is very profound, but sometimes people don't want to do that.
Yeah,
they're resistant to that. Yeah.
And, you know, another group, I think we're all thinking about like older neighbors or people who are sick, but like someone, one of our listeners just pointed out, another group of people that are out working is journalists. So journalists, healthcare workers.
Yes.
Maybe if you have a neighbor and you know they're one of these people, offer to get them groceries. Because I know one problem is that a lot of essential workers aren't able to go to the grocery store in off hours. And so they're not left with, you know, they're having trouble getting their own supplies.
Yes. Yes.
So that would be another group, you know, another way to help is if you have people, you know, who are in these jobs, even if they're not sick or old, to get them supplies.
No, I mean, I think we're also aware of everything that the essential workers are doing to keep everything, all the machinery going. So anything we can do to like help them do their part. And I mean, I think one big thing is just staying home, because like today when I was out on my solo walk in Central Park, and I saw almost no one. I saw 2 buses go by. One bus, these are huge New York City buses. One bus had 3 people, one bus had 2 people. And I'm like, those people and that bus driver are going to feel safer because it's not packed with people. And so everybody's kind of cooperating to try to help the, you know, kind of everything that needs to get done. So that's great. Now, one thing that we wanted to talk about today, and we fired it up, is about the 4 tendencies. I have heard from so many people about how are the 4 tendencies coming up in this unusual situation that we're in. And it has been fascinating to get all these emails from listeners and readers and viewers about how the 4 tendencies play out. Now, if you do not know if you're an upholder, a questioner, obliger, or rebel, you can go to the quiz, quiz.gretchenrubin.com. It's free. It only takes a few minutes. It's like 11 questions, and you'll find out what you are and learn a little bit about yourself. But for the purposes of this, we're just going to launch in and talk about it. And what's interesting to me, and especially when the rules were changing, was people talking about like upholders were really having this conflict. And I felt this conflict too, where it's like you so much want to keep your normal routine and you want to execute the way you usually execute. And then it's very hard to be flexible. So like I have a friend who's an upholder and she goes to the gym. I mean, I think she missed going to the gym like 7 times in 2 years or something. She just goes to the gym like so consistently. And she said it was really hard for her to like not go, even though she's like, I shouldn't go. And then finally they changed the rule. And then she's like, okay, well now I'll keep the rule. But when it was sort of like, can I go if I wipe everything down and I stay far away from everybody? Maybe I should, maybe I shouldn't. And she was just very torn. And because her upholder nature had like locked into that. And as an upholder, it's like, oh, I so get that.
A lot of people are saying they're rebels.
Yeah.
Sorry. I wish we could pause like we can in the podcast.
I know. You're like,
edit
hey,
that
Chuck, clip that out. Yeah. I know. If I say like 1,000 times. No, I think this is really hard for rebels because rebels like to feel free. They don't like to feel constrained. So they don't like being told to stay home. They don't like being told what to do. They tend to want to do what they want to do when they want to do it.
Well, and they want to cross a line. I mean, the problem with the rebel is the more lines you put down, the more they want to cross them, right?
Yes, right.
So it's like, creating a situation where they want to go see people because, like, if you're told you can't.
Right. Because then that ignites the spirit of resistance. So one of the things I think you could, oh, I like your mug, Elizabeth.
Oh, this is my Powell's mug, Powell's Books. We were talking about supporting independent bookstores. And Powell's is one of our favorites in Portland. And this is like my new favorite mug. Well, and my Obliger mug, of course.
Well, somebody was just saying in the comments that identity is really important for rebels, and I think that's absolutely true. And I think, you know, for a rebel, it's really tapping into that identity of like, I'm a responsible citizen. I choose not to put others at risk. People think I can't observe this, but I can. My family and friends say there's no way that I could, you know, stay at home, but I can. And tapping into that identity. Also, like, rebels don't like to be controlled. And so one rebel emailed me and said that she had personified the virus. And she's like, there's no way I'm going to let this virus take control of my life. I'm not going to be used by this virus to sustain and replicate itself. I refuse to pass it on to other people just because this virus thinks it can hijack me. So it's this idea of like, I won't be controlled by so it's not I'm being controlled by the government that's telling me to stay home or my friends who are telling me to stay home. I'm not going to be controlled by the virus. And so, but I have to say, sometimes people will say things like, well, it doesn't care what you want. This is public safety. I think somebody said that in here. I get what you're saying. That's not an effective tact for rebel. I'm not saying that you're right or wrong. I'm just saying it doesn't work. It's like saying to an obliger, you really just have to tap into your inner motivation. I'm saying it just doesn't work. It's not an effective way. It's not that it's not true. It's not that it's not a good idea. It's just that it doesn't work. So
it works great for questioners.
It works well for a questioner. It's like the data you want to. My family keeps texting me a big question about where's our dog. What's like something going on with our dog. So sorry, I keep swiping. It's like, okay, figure it out, guys. So for a questioner, you really want to have the data. You want to have, it's like, my gosh, people, like, if we're in the same apartment, go talk to each other face to face. There's like 1,000 texts. Here's another one. Stop texting me. I'm sorry. There's another one. I'm going to give everybody a little like lecture next time. Anyway, so the thing about questioners, you have to give them data, and it has to be from a source they respect. So you can't tell them to look, and there's another one. You can't tell them to look at a website that they don't trust. If they're like, I don't trust that website, don't point them to that website. Don't be like, you should trust that website. There's another one. You need to like speak the you need to see the language that they recognize. And so and also questioners, I think if there's somebody who keeps sending you links, they might likely be a questioner. That's the thing questioners often like to do. So for questioners, it's like, what is the reason for this? What is the basis for this? What's the rationale for this? And why do I need to do this myself? I will say sometimes questioners kind of customize. So they'll be like, well, this is the rule for everybody, but I feel that I can customize this rule myself. I feel like I understand the science well enough to carve out my own exception. That's a very questioner thing to do. And I have observed questioners around me doing that. But for rebels, you really do want to be like, you know, or it's kind of information consequences choice. If you stop off, if every time you go to the gas station, you go inside and have a chat and pick up a snack, you're going to be putting, you know, our elderly parents at risk because we're all staying together in the same house. And like, and just be very clear about what the consequences are. But then don't keep nudging and reminding them, because every time you do that, you sort of ignite the spirit of resistance. It's like the message is out there now. Yeah.
By the way, Gretchen, our very helpful listeners are pointing out if you swipe down, you can tap the moon symbol for do not disturb.
Okay, wait, say that again.
Say if you swipe down, there's a moon symbol, and that's do not disturb.
Okay, I'm going to do that later because I'm going to. Okay, but thank you guys. That's good.
Yeah, and an obliger was just commenting that, so for an obliger, as I am, it's really easy to follow the rules, but she's saying it's hard to keep expectations low. Like, in other words, there's a lot of things, for instance, with the homeschooling, which is a big challenge, where teachers even are saying, look, parents, be easy on yourselves. You're not trained teachers. We know it's frustrating. Just do your best. Don't beat yourself up. But a lot of obligers feel like, well, if there are 7 assignments, I need to help my kid get all of these 7 assignments done and uploaded and checked. And so it's hard as an obliger to like not do these things that are expected of you, even though everyone's saying keep expectations low, because this is a very difficult, unprecedented time.
Well, and somebody was pointing out earlier in the whole evolution of this in the United States that like a lot of times upholders were like, or like in places where they hadn't closed school yet, they'd be like, well, I feel like I have to send my child to school because what if they miss a test, or what if they get marked absent? And it's like, even in the face of like, oh my gosh, this is not a good idea. It can be hard to, like, even in acceptance like this, you feel the weight of those outer expectations, and it can be very hard. So for, I think, both upholders and obligers, one of the things to do is to always go back to like, well, what is the true expectation, and what is the real way to meet the larger expectation? For obligers, sometimes to say yes to some people, you have to say no to other people. It's like, my family member says they're very disappointed that we're not going over to their house for the family birthday party, but I have to say no to you because I'm going to say yes to my family because we've decided what's safe for us. So I can't say yes to both of you. I have to decide who I'm going to say yes to. And for upholders, it's really tapping into those inner expectations. What do I really believe is the most important thing here, and how do I serve it? And questioners, it's like, why would I do this? Why would I do that? But another thing, if you're just joining us, it's me, Gretchen Rubin, and
Elizabeth Kraft.
Yeah, we're the co-hosts of the Happier with Gretchen Rubin podcast. And right now we are talking about the 4 tendencies and how it's playing out here. I will say that something that is coming up over and over again is rebels not wanting to do social distancing, or not having the same vision of social distancing, and others being very distressed. There's so much power in the rebel tendency. I have so much respect for the rebel tendency, so I don't want to like call them out. But I will say that I've just heard from many, many people saying, how do I communicate with a rebel in a way that they will hear, because they're not hearing me now? Saying things like, you have to, you said you would, this is the rule, everybody else is doing it. It tends not to work very well for rebels. And so you really want to be like, this is your choice. This is what you want. This is what works for you. This is the person that you are. How do you want to look back on your behavior? Who do you want to be in the world? Because this is who you are. It's not even what other people think of you. It's like, who are you? What are the values that you want to put into the world? And then what are the consequences? Because
people are saying, it's difficult when you're married to a rebel and you're not a rebel, because whatever they do with social distancing basically is the same thing, then impacts you. Because if they're going out, then you're exposed. I mean, it's still better if you're staying home because you're not then going out. But it's hard. I think a lot of people, based on the comments, are struggling with this.
Somebody said, how do I get my rebel brothers to stop smoking?
Now is not the time, I'm guessing.
Now's not the time to quit smoking. Remember that scene in Airplane? I picked the wrong weekend to stop sniffing glue. It's like, I was like, I picked the wrong year to go to the Met every day. But rebel in general, one of my favorite stories about rebels is somebody said that her rebel husband quit smoking because their 18-year-old son said, oh, Dad, you shouldn't even bother trying to quit. An old guy like you could never quit smoking. And he's like, you think so? Watch me.
Gretchen, someone just said her rebel husband won't stop going out, so she's moving to an Airbnb.
Whoa. Okay, so that is what we call information consequences choice. You say that you give them the information they need. If you do not do this, then I will move to an Airbnb. You let them do it, and then the consequence has to fall. So that is a bold and I bet effective strategy, because part of it
3 months, I think she
for
says.
3 months. Wow. Yeah, please, if you have other suggestions about how to do this, especially if you are a rebel, if you are managing this, how are you talking to yourself in a way that is allowing you to make it like the person who said, I personified the virus and I refuse to be controlled by it.
Yes, one person said they're a rebel, but they care about their health, so they're staying home.
Right. I mean, that's the thing. You're like, I don't want to be you know, I don't want to be sick. I don't want to, or I don't want to put others at risk. There's a lot, that's important.
It's funny because for me, and I don't know if this helps rebels, but well, probably not. I'm just like, I'm a big believer in the social contract, you know, and as I was like, I just feel like as part of being part of civilization, you have to do, you know, what the greater good. I just like, and anything that goes against that gives me massive anxiety.
Yeah. Well, I don't know for a rebel if that would be as compelling as like, I choose to be a good citizen.
Right.
You know,
Yes.
It's not I have to abide, but I think for an obliger that could be a very powerful thing to think about. Again, if you don't know if you're we're throwing these terms around, and if you don't know if you're an upholder, a questioner, an obliger, or a rebel, the quiz is at quiz.gretchenrubin.com, and it's free and it's quick, and it will spit out a little thing. Yeah, I mean, for me as an upholder, there was a great piece in the rules being very clear. The more clarity there was in the rule, the more that I was like, I'm clearly keeping the rule, then that was reassuring to me. But one thing that I found, and I would be curious to know from viewers if they're experiencing this, is I think under stress, your tendency comes out in a different way, and it can kind of drive the other people crazy. Like I was saying when we talked earlier about keeping a schedule, for me, that is very reassuring to have a schedule and to keep the schedule and to feel like I'm executing. I'm exercising, I'm writing, I'm doing Instagram Live, I'm calling my parents as I'm walking through the park. Like, these make me feel calm and in control. And I recognize that it's like, I'm not really in control, but it makes me feel better. But my desire to then make everybody around me do that comes from a place of love, because I want to make them feel control, but then they don't like it. You know, they have their own ideas. They don't want me badgering them and like waking them up and, you know, all this. And I have to remember that just because something makes me feel more comforted doesn't mean that it's making other people. And I think for like a rebel, if you have a rebel child, you might be like, look, you got to do the schoolwork, but you want to do it at 8 p.m. That's fine. If you want to do it while you're eating dinner, that's fine too. You make the choices. You set the schedule. You want to wear your pajamas, fine. Like this idea that everybody needs a routine. I'm like, those rebel children might be so exasperating for them to be so, like, maybe you need to give them that way of making more choices, even if the choices to you look sort of like bananas. Or somebody else who just wants to completely reorganize their day or do things in a different way. You know, some things we have to coordinate and do things together. But in some ways, I'm like, people have different preferences. And just because I think we should all, I want to say things like, why don't we all just agree that we're going to do our family meditation at 5 p.m.? Like, I would love that. And nobody else wants to do that. Because Jamie's like, well, what if I have a call? And my daughter, who's already back in college, is like, maybe I need to call, you know, maybe that's what I'm going to have a conference with my teacher. And I'm like, okay, well, then I guess we can't do it. You know. And I think with questioners too, it's like all these things are like, but why? I want more information. We don't have perfect information right now. All over the world, people are trying to get information. We don't have perfect information.
Yeah. I do think though, for questioners, like, they seem to be all rapidly coming to the conclusion that whatever the case, whatever information is out there, clearly staying home is a good idea. Like, our dad is a questioner, and I called him a couple of weeks ago, and and he's a boomer, and there's a lot of talk about how boomers are not wanting to stay home, but I called and said, Dad, I really want you to stay home. And he was like, you know, I've just come to the same conclusion because I listened to this lecture and I read these 5 articles. Yeah. And it's like, they all lead the same place, you know? So I do think that's a good thing. I feel like questioners are probably like getting to the same conclusion.
But it's interesting. A questioner was saying that the amount of data was overwhelming. And that's interesting too, because there is, and it's not all pointing in the same direction. It's like, maybe this, maybe that. The people in France are saying they're seeing this, and then the people but we didn't see that in Japan. And so, so I think again, that can be analysis paralysis for questioners, where they feel like they're just kind of overwhelmed and paralyzed because there's so much information. So again, it's like, take your nature into account and think like, okay, well, maybe I am going to only touch my face. You know, I'm only going to do it. How do I manage it? And just to realize that people have different susceptibilities. because it really does. Some people find it reassuring. But our father is a good example of something else about questioners, which is questioners, they will be guided by someone whose authority they deem worthy.
Yes.
So they're going to judge an authority. And so we were fortunate because our father heard from an authority where he was extremely impressed with the person's command of the facts, just kind of crisp, like no nonsense, like this is the situation and like this is what is clear. And so he found it very, very compelling. But if a questioner doesn't accept an authority, of course, then they will reject it and come to their own conclusions. You may be seeing this among questioners. I've definitely heard from people who are like, my questioner, you know, this is just an aspect of the questioner tendency.
Yeah, a lot of questioners, Gretchen, are commenting that they do feel they're on overload.
Yes. Oh,
and they're having issues. Also, there's a lot of conflicting best practices out there, and that's troubling to them.
Yeah.
Which,
but I mean, I think to your point that's why it's kind of reassuring now that it's like getting clear. It's like all that other stuff will get figured out, but for now, stay home. You know what I mean? It's like, it feels like at least we have that. And then with the obligers, I think that they are feeling a lot of pressure from like the teachers, from like the work. So many people now are in situations, you know, and you're very fortunate to be in a situation where you're working from home. I mean, certainly being a remote worker feels like such a, you know, you're so fortunate. But I have talked to a lot of people where it's like both spouses are home and working, and they usually don't do that. Maybe one works at home or maybe neither works at home. And then you also have children working at home. So it's sort of like, how do you manage all those expectations? Because you've got your boss's expectations, your spouse's expectations, the teacher's expectations, your children's expectations. You know, somebody's like tugging at your sleeve every 10 minutes saying, where's this, where's that? This doesn't work. I can't log in. Where's the printer paper? You know, that is very hard. And because I think as an upholder, I'm kind of like, I'm in my office and like, you know, knock on the door if you need me. And I have big kids, so that's easier. But I think for some, it's feeling very, very overwhelming. Don't want to get into obliger rebellion. This would not be a good time for obliger rebellion. So maybe you need to say, like, let's have a family meeting. Or if you are married to an obliger, or you're around an obliger, look for maybe situations where they're being taken advantage of, or their boundaries are not being respected, and really do the work on the other side to help the obliger get what they need, because you don't want them to feel burned out or neglected or exploited or taken advantage of or ignored or unheard, because that really can be that can lead to obliger rebellion, and then that's kind of, who knows what's going to happen. Sometimes that's good. Sometimes
some obligers are saying it's hard to set a routine because it's like their own routine, you know.
Yes.
Like if you're working at the office, you have all that accountability. But if you're suddenly working at home, they don't know when you're writing the report or whatever.
So one thing you can do, go to the Better app. There's, you know, that's my free app. It's betterapp.us on desktop, or you can just search in the App Store for Better Gretchen Rubin. And you can form accountability groups there, or use that as accountability, because absolutely 100% obligers, you will need that. Or you can do it, you know, every day we're having this accountability check-in. Today we didn't come on too strong. Maybe we need to come on, like go back and say, what are you holding yourself accountable for? We're looking at you. We're going through all the comments, if not now, after this is over, to see, are people doing what they say they're doing? Whether it's meditation or rewriting their cover letter or updating their resume or whatever.
20 for 20 and 20.
Walk 20 and 20. Are you walking 20 and 20? You know, we're holding you accountable, because that's exactly right. A lot of obligers don't realize how much they rely on having these implicit structures, like a work deadline, a boss, a team, deliverables, driving kids to school. You know, a lot of times they'll be like, I drop my kids off at school and then I go to the gym, but now I'm not dropping my kids off at school, and now I can't go to the gym. So I now need to, on my own, replicate getting exercise kind of out of nowhere. I have to reimagine that and create a structure of accountability. That's not easy.
Gretch, should I read you what my tasks for accountability that I want to accomplish today?
Yes, absolutely. Let's hear it.
Okay. Here, I made a list.
See, that's good. That's
45 minutes
stressed out. Make a list. It gives you a feeling of control.
Here's just 4 items. 45 minutes on the treadmill. That's not running. That's just walking. empty the little trash cans because, you know, like they're filling up, cut my fingernails, and write 5 pages. These are the things that I want to accomplish today for myself.
That's good. Those are good.
Putting it out there.
Those are good.
I'll report how I did.
I am super, super lucky because Eliza is just cracking the whip on chores. She's like, you know what I mean? And everybody will listen to her much more than they'll listen to me. And she's like, what's everybody's schedule today? What are we going to do cleanup? And it's like, okay, you know, we all had to go through our days and like, okay, we're going to do it. So I feel really fortunate that she's pushing that because it is like, you got to empty the little trash cans, and there's a million bazillion things to do, and it's all, and a lot more than usual because we're all here all the time.
Oh,
so it's
the
not
dishes,
even like
we're using like so many dishes, just constant dishes.
Yeah. Okay, so we will be back tomorrow, back at 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific. Your challenge, let's just lay out the challenge again.
Yes. My reason for having wet hair: take a shower and use a hair product that you've been putting off using because the stakes have felt too high to risk it not working, and see if it works once and for all. I'm going to go do that after we part ways.
Yes. And you want to walk your 20 and 20, whatever you're holding yourself accountable for. We're going to ask you tomorrow how it's going.
Gretchen, remind everyone, people are want a reminder of where to take the tendency quiz.
Oh, okay. So you can take it. It's quiz.gretchenrubin.com, and that's a free quick quiz. And if you already know, if you're intrigued by the 4 tendencies and you want to know more about how to use it and how to apply it for yourself and also for other people, I have drastically reduced the price of my online course, which is gretchenrubin.com/4TC. And that's the course. I think it's a 5-week course, or you can do it in your own time. Obviously, now that time is, what is time these days? So that's or you can just go to my website and search for 4 Tendencies course, and that's an online course. But it's really designed to help you use it to yourself. And my family is just, okay. Whoever told me about that moon thing, I'm going to get on that. So thank you, viewer. There they go. It's a family that wants to text instead of talk. I don't understand what's going on. Anyways, never like that. Okay.
And Gretchen, tomorrow we're going to be again at 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern.
Yes. And so, and if you have any other anything that you want to talk about, any issues that are burning in the next few days, we will talk to you soon.
And wait, one more thing, Gretchen. I want to remind everyone they can join the Happier in Hollywood Facebook group by searching Facebook for Happier in Hollywood, and I will admit you. And we have a lot of positive, practical ways to connect and get through this together.
And your bonus episode dropped. I had missed that.
Yes.
I just started listening to that today. Yeah.
Yes. Our bonus episode of Happier in Hollywood with Audrey Monkey talking about sort of parenting and kids and COVID-19.
Yeah. Excellent. Okay, everyone. Let's keep our hands clean and our minds clear.
Bye.